Flying kind of sucks. Like, sure, you get to travel the world, but the lines, security patting down your peanuts, and sitting on glorified bus seats doesn't exactly make it a great time. But what if I told you that's only the start? There's fraud being committed by an airline shadow group right in front of your eyes. One that results in cancellations, expensive tickets, and lost bags. You've probably heard about the awful delays and cancellations plaguing air travel.
I sat with 4 hours on the runway here.
Supposed to go to London for a trip.
Sir.
I'm not raising my voice. This would be raising my voice to you, okay?
Everything airline related is going wrong. There was a point this year where if you took a flight, there was a 3.6% chance it'd be totally canceled. Imagine if your car was an airline. You get ready for work, eat your breakfast, head out to the driveway only to find your car won't start. A terrible morning for anyone. But your car acts like an airline, so this actually happens to you once every single month. If that was the case, you'd hate cars and you feel like you need 2 of them just to be safe. And cancellations aren't the only problem because a whopping 20% of flights are delayed as well. Things have literally never been this bad. And then there's the weird stuff, like when Delta flew a plane from London to Detroit with no passengers and somehow lost 1,000 bags. Or the flight out of Manchester that was delayed 32 hours when finally the co-pilot had to get out and help load bags into this plane. Or the couple whose baby got booked on a different flight somehow and they had to spend 20 hours on the phone just to get her rebooked. It's a dumpster fire. And then there's the impact on your wallet. At the start of 2022, the average domestic flight cost $330, about 7% more than 2019 prices. Not bad. However, just a few months later in May, prices shot up nearly 40%. But now you're thinking, why is this happening? How is fraud connected to this? And who are these shady figures puppeteering this insane mess? Well, first, you need to understand the domino effect. You see, problems are a vicious cycle. As soon as you have a big one, the rest get worse. And for the airlines, these rampant issues start with just one thing: staffing shortages. Yeah, no, boring. But listen, the airlines are running out of employees, and this goes beyond pandemic-related employment issues. This thing is complicated with a brutal con at its heart.
The airlines lost thousands of pilots during the pandemic.
Just like the passengers, we're frustrated with all the delays and cancellations.
Southwest and Delta pilots have picketed to say they are overworked.
According to the United Airlines CEO, around 5,000 to 7,000 new pilots get trained each year. But here's the thing. U.S. airlines need to hire 13,000 of them this year alone. He thinks it could take 5 years to figure this problem out. American Airlines alone has parked 100 planes because there's no one to fly them. And then, of course, there's all the other jobs that keep planes flying as well. Flight attendants, ground crew, TSA agents. From February to October 2020, the start of the pandemic, U.S. Airlines downsized by more than 84,000 employees. And guess what? A lot of people didn't want to come back to work.
I've never seen a meltdown of this proportion. The fact is, the airlines still refuse to own this.
The TSA is 30% below its staffing target for this year. Certain airports have had to limit flights because they don't have enough people to run air traffic control towers. And this is a domino problem, remember? If you don't have many pilots, it's not an easy problem to solve. Pilots don't grow on trees. I mean, they sometimes land on them. But here's where we get to the dark part of this story. Because on the outside, it seems like harmless staffing issues. But remember when I said there were shadowy figures behind this? Well, there are, and they're pulling off one big con. The staffing shortage didn't just happen on its own. This game was kicked off by the pandemic, but it's what airlines did afterwards that really sent things off the rails. Like most shady finance stories, this one started with a bailout. During COVID, U.S. Airlines got a $54 billion bailout to help keep them afloat when no one was flying. But this deal had a major stipulation. Accept this money and you cannot, under any circumstance, lay off your workers. But airline executives, the figures behind this mess, weren't going to let a pesky rule get in the way of profits. They found a loophole. Furloughs and buyouts. Basically, the airlines urged a bunch of their senior employees to go ahead and retire, saving them a bunch of money without breaking the bailout terms. This is the root cause of staffing shortages, especially when it comes to pilots. But that doesn't make sense. Why would airlines knowingly limit themselves and cause all these problems? And the simple reason is they didn't know what they were doing. No one expected the economy and with it the demand for air travel to bounce back so fast. So when it did, the aviation industry got caught, pants around their ankles, peanuts in their hand, and now it's a race to play catch up. So catch up they did, with an even bigger con. See, airlines schedule flights 10 to 12 months in advance. So once demand picked back up, they started scheduling more flights to help meet that demand. Except the airlines knew they didn't have enough pilots to fly those flights, and yet they sold the tickets anyways. It's why Bernie Sanders wants the Department of Transportation to fine airlines $55,000 per passenger for every flight cancellation they know won't be fully staffed. Worst of all, despite knowing months in advance that certain flights would be canceled, no passengers are warned until last minute. Honestly, I don't know why this isn't a bigger scandal. Think about how much chaos this causes. Every flight canceled last minute results in a mad scramble at the airport. Passengers flocking to new flights, lost bags, peanuts in the wrong mouths. It's a mess. It makes air travel look worse than air travel. It's kind of always a nightmare, but now it's a nightmare knowingly engineered by airline executives. However, there's hope. You might be wondering, where's the government in all of this? Well, they're kind of just chilling, letting it happen. Except for a few key members. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Jan Schakowsky have been pushing to both fine airlines that knowingly cancel flights that were never going to fly and get the FTC to crack down on deceptive ticketing practices. This wouldn't be the first time airlines are fined into better behavior. The FAA has repeatedly fined American Airlines for excessive tarmac waiting times, which has somewhat improved the situation. So time will tell if regulators help straighten this out, but in the meantime, there's a few things you can do to protect yourself against delays and cancellations. First, book direct flights. Second, try to take flights that leave early in the day, since delays get worse as the day wears on. Third, take a carry-on instead of a checked bag because additional problems happen, then you have to deal with a checked bag if you have a checked bag. And fourth, book directly with an airline instead of a third-party site. This makes it easier to handle a cancellation if and when they do happen. These tips won't insulate you from every disaster, but they'll sure help. Good luck, mind your peanuts, and subscribe.